Welcome to another Double Value Commentary. I'm Bill Truax with the only internet commentary guaranteed to be worth at least twice as much as you paid for it. This Double Value Commentary is brought to you by Thoughtful Products, maker of the Jerk Reducer Knee Brace, and announcing a new item, the Verbal Response Dampening Jaw Brace. Test subjects reported up to 85% reduction in the speed and volume of emotionally charged responses to political conversations. For a limited time, all verbal response dampening jaw braces will include, at no extra charge, the optional Kevlar reinforced nylon mesh podiatric oral screen, guaranteed to keep your foot out of your mouth when used as directed. Be on the lookout for other thoughtful products, including the keyboard response dampener, perfect for all your social media interactions and available in both full-sized and handheld models. Thoughtful Products. Give yourself a fighting chance against your own sarcasm and knee-jerk responses. Try a thoughtful product today. As promised or threatened, depending on your perspective, this double value commentary will discuss a philosophy for conversation, actually a philosophy for listening to other people, in today's highly charged and hypersensitive political culture. And I'm going to use Democratic presidential candidate Tom Steyer as an example. Who's Tom Steyer? That's a good question. According to Wikipedia, Tom Steyer is a former hedge fund manager turned philanthropist, environmentalist, and liberal activist, and currently has a net worth of $1.6 billion. So, why him? Well, at this point, the particular position that he's taken on a $22 an hour minimum wage is one that I want to use to highlight and bring out this philosophy of listening to things that, at least I think, are pretty unreasonable. So, first of all, why do I think a $22 an hour minimum wage is unreasonable? I'll tell you why. Number one, it crushes small businesses. Small businesses have most of their expenses tied up in labor. So if all of a sudden you have to double or triple your labor costs, well, you're going to have to make some hard decisions. You're going to have to do at least one of two things: lay people off or raise your prices. And most small business owners are probably going to do a combination of the two. Decrease the hours that they're open. The owners themselves will work hard. I've known quite a few small business owners, and almost all of them, at least in the first few years of having their business, were working 80 to 100 hours a week just to try to keep their businesses afloat. So a $22 an hour minimum wage will crush small businesses, guaranteed. Number two, it actually hurts the people it's intended to help. It's intended to help entry-level workers. Increase minimum wage? Well, we're going to give them more money, so they will have more buying power, right? Wrong. They will not have more buying power. Increased wages across the board means that consumer prices are going to increase across the board. That's called inflation. When you have inflation, your buying power goes down, not up. It goes down. And who are the people who can least afford for their buying power to go down? People who work entry-level jobs, right? And remember that other option that I talked about with the small business owners? The one of laying people off? Well, not only is their buying power decreased, they don't have any money anyhow because now they don't have a job because they've been laid off. Okay, this is bad. We've seen this already happen in New York and in Seattle where they have $15 an hour minimum wages, right? The number of entry-level jobs has decreased dramatically in both of those places. Who's that good for? No one. So it's a double whammy. Not only do they have fewer job opportunities, but then their buying power decreases as well because consumer prices have increased across the board if you raise the minimum wage across the board, because everyone that works at Walmart, everyone that works at your grocery stores, at least in the entry-level positions, they're all minimum wage workers. So, and the people who are working at non-minimum wage, let's say the people who are making $12, $13 an hour right now, well, when that minimum wage goes up to 22, what are they making? $30, $32 an hour? The inflationary aspect of this is tremendous. And it's hard for me to believe that someone like Tom Steyer, who made a fortune in the business world, does not understand the economics behind all this. Maybe he doesn't, though. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So the philosophical framework. Philosophy, coming from the Greek word meaning love, brotherly love, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, and Sophie, meaning wisdom. So the love of wisdom. Okay, if we love wisdom, we are not going to overreact. We're not going to get up in people's faces. We're going to provide a reasonable response, even when what we are responding to sounds completely unreasonable. How do we do that? Well, I've got 3 points here. So let's talk about those. Point number 1, always give people the benefit of the doubt. Right? Until you really understand where they're coming from, give them the benefit of the doubt. They're probably not, they actually believe what they're saying. That'll be point number 3. But give them the benefit of the doubt. Number 2, do not ascribe to malice that which is more easily explained by fear, ignorance, or a combination of the two. All right, we'll talk about that a little bit later too. And as I alluded to in number 1, everyone thinks that their beliefs are completely reasonable. Everyone does. You do, I do. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't look back on the past and say, yeah, when I said that, when I thought that, that was stupid. That was not reasonable. I thought it was reasonable at the time, but yeah, it wasn't. Okay, but at the moment when people tell you what they think and what they believe, even if they're screaming in your face, they actually think it's reasonable. So, if they think they're being reasonable, join them in that and maybe ask them why they think what they believe is reasonable. If they are being reasonable, not necessarily holding to a reasonable position, but if they're being reasonable, then they might actually have a conversation with you. Now, there are 2 occasions when people will say something that they know is not reasonable, that they absolutely believe is not reasonable. One is they're just trying to play devil's advocate, trying to provoke a conversation, and that's not necessarily bad. It could be bad if they're just trying to be a jerk. But if they were trying to get a conversation going, not necessarily bad. The second one, yeah, it can be bad. It's called malicious manipulation. If they're just trying to manipulate people to do what they would otherwise not do, yeah, then it's bad. So, using this philosophical framework, let's take a look at Tom Steyer's $22 an hour minimum wage concept. Okay, I start with the fact that I think he's a smart man. He made a lot of money in business, so I think he's got to be pretty smart. Should be smarter than I am. He should understand economics a lot better than I do. I took Economics 101 and Economics 102 in college, and I remember about 3 points from those courses. But this is pretty simple consumer economics. I don't get why he thinks this might be a good idea. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he knows something I don't. That is completely possible. But I don't know what that is. I can't understand that. So I'll go to the second position. His position is not based on malice, but perhaps fear or ignorance. Okay? So let's not ascribe to malice. Let's see, what might he be afraid of? He's a Democratic presidential candidate. Maybe he's just got nothing else to set him apart from everyone else. So this is his bid for relevance. Maybe so. Okay? That might work. Is he ignorant of something? Maybe, as I alluded to, maybe he is ignorant of consumer economics. That would be strange, but it's plausible. Maybe he spent so much time as a hedge fund manager up at the stratosphere of economics that consumer economics are just not something that he really understands well. And then third, remember, everyone thinks that their positions are completely reasonable. Well, why would he think this is a reasonable position? What aspect of a $22 an hour minimum wage is reasonable? Maybe he just is so far removed from retail consumer economics that he thinks that every business owner makes the same kind of margins that he did as a hedge fund manager. Well, your restaurant and your fast food joints, they're making a margin of 3 to 5%. That means the $6 value meal that you just bought, the restaurant's probably clearing about 30 cents. Okay, that's not the kind of money that Tom Steyer was making as a hedge fund manager. Maybe he just doesn't get it. Maybe he thinks that all business owners are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars even a year and can easily afford to increase minimum wage without hurting their bottom line. Maybe so. But if that's the case, then he really is out of touch with how the vast majority of retail business owners live. Is he being deliberately provocative? Probably not, because if so, he's painting himself into a corner if he ever gets into a position to actually seriously propose a $22 an hour minimum wage. And then I got to ask myself if there's any evidence that he's being deliberately and maliciously manipulative. Well, he's seeking the highest office in the land, and in general, anyone who wants that job may be a little crazy anyhow, but that's probably beside the point. Maybe, and this is where I come down on Tom Steyer here, because he spent so much money on advertising, billboards, television, and he's not polling very high. His chances of getting the nomination this year are about zero. I really think he's trying to buy name recognition and influence for 2024. I think that's his real goal, is to run for president, get nominated, and win the election in 2024. That's just my idea. So in conclusion, I'm not at all sold on his idea of a $22 an hour minimum wage, and I think it's a recipe for economic disaster, especially for the people it's intended to help. I've got a friend who likes to remind me that the real minimum wage is zero if I'm a business owner and I can't afford to hire you because the minimum wage is too high, then you get paid nothing. That would be zero. The minimum wage is intended to be a floor under which entry-level wages cannot be set. What it has become is a ceiling above which entry-level wages need not be set because it's the minimum. Two fast food joints are competing for labor, but they basically, if one of them doesn't offer more than minimum wage, the one across the street isn't going to offer more than minimum wage either, because if one offers more, the other's going to offer more, and there's no real reason to do that. There's no competition in the workplace. Well, can you imagine if we did have competition for all entry-level jobs? They wouldn't be able to have that collusion in the workforce because there's just too many entry-level jobs out there. That would put the power in the hands of the laborers. The people who actually do the work would have a lot more power in setting the wages. So we would have a much more dynamic job market, and it would be dynamic even at the lowest level. That'd be a good thing for everyone. That's all for this double value commentary. Next time, the phenomenon of social media saturated culture in which my self-worth can be crushed by someone I don't know, will never meet, and until this moment was completely irrelevant to my existence. I'll talk to you then.